we're going to go over a couple of deck lists here. So first off, let's recap the winning deck list from last week. Doc28 winning on Friday on Menace Trove. We're going to pull up Apple Chips' version, which I believe is very similar, if not the exact same. So talk us through this one, Ilya.
Okay, so this is the archetype that my team actually, ET and CSP, basically Doc's brainchild of the idea of Menace Sacrifice. It did very well as far as top 64 presence in the last Throne ECQ. Had, I think, the highest day 1 to day 2 increase in presence out of all the decks present. And the idea of this deck is it's a shrine deck. We've seen this kind of archetype ever since Shrine to Carver dropped in set 8, and this is essentially more of the same theme in that you play some dorks like Brendan Drone, like Kato Arena Herald, and then you play cards like Kindling Carver, Devour, and Display of Menace to draw a lot more cards. The twist here is that this deck runs Practice Trove, and that way you actually are able to set up some ridiculously power efficient line in that you play a Grendon Drone, you know when to hold them, either for Krull or for exactly what it says on the tin, Broken Contract, to play a 2-drop that plays a 2-cost spell, and then you play one of your let me see here, 4, 8, 12 free drops to get a Display of Menace. So if you go through the entire Trove sequence, we're talking about a 6-for-1 for about 3 power. So basically, it does some absolutely ridiculous things once the engines get going. The downside of the deck is ultimately that your interaction is fairly limited with just the Combust and the Open Contract in the market. And the entire main deck essentially dedicated to getting the engine going with the win condition, Shrine to Carver, and the interaction, such as an Edge of Uprising, a Combust, and Open Contract in the market. So, highly synergistic deck, and there you have it.
All right, well, we're going to be watching 2 pretty fun ones here in a moment. So let's start out with Ash Acer's first. So Ash Acer has a 5-faction Kilo deck. So what's happening with Kilo in this 5-faction deck here?
Okay, Rainbow Kilo with Kato. Oh boy, this looks like something Boxer would have been proud of back in the day. We're seeing the familiar suspects. The usual suspect, Unfamiliar Interloper, Kilo, and wow, 3 copies of Triumphant Stranger. Oh boy. So in the past, this was an even Kilo Vox deck. Nerf completely decimated that variant, but we're still seeing the idea of run a fairly shallow, no, apparently not a fairly shallow influence space. Because I'm seeing 2, 2, 1, 5, and 2, and use Kilo to search your deck for whatever unit works best in the current situation. The power base is, we'll have to see if it functions, and then the market is, from what I can tell, a shadow market. So, trying to carve it. Display of Menace, exploit Airmont's designs to gain back some tempo, annihilate. This is a spicy meatball. We'll have to see if it's functional.
All right, one more, and we're going to be watching Ash Acer in round 1, playing out that 5-faction Kilo, and they're going to be going up against Adequate Finch on Honor Eccentric Officer. So this is a new one. This is one of our new fun cards, Eccentric Officer. Talk us through this spicy meatball, Ilya.
Okay, so this, as we saw from Popo Tito in the ECQ, wants to pull out Eccentric Officer from the market ASAP, which is a 2/2 for 4 and a fire, with Decay that says summon, randomize all the costs of the cards in your deck. So since it runs a bunch of cards that cost 1 or 2 power, and runs 3 Kairos and 3 First Flame in the deck, the idea is that you suddenly reduce the cost of those two bombs to something very, very low, and then you use the reweave in the market to go get Kairos into cheap Kairos into like shifted, and then you somehow, with Rujan's choice, tutor up a first flame that you somehow, I am not quite sure, uh, activate the. No, I'm not even sure you do need to activate the tribute on you with a shifted Kairos in play. You play the first flame, which will play a 5/5 Infernus, which Kairos will have hit the enemy player, which will play a Flame Fang, which will hit the enemy player. So this actually creates an in Magic it would be an infinite loop, but in Eternal it's until your board is full.
Yeah,
So
true.
it creates a full board that just nukes your opponent, and you have a dominant board presence, and then you kill.